a lot more like different cultural interpretations, so I'm just going to blow through some of these.
Awesome.
Kind of like a lightning round.
Awesome.
Just talk about how different cultures
Like
describe
speed dating, but angels.
them. Yeah. Speed rating. No, that didn't work. All right. It was Christianity that developed angels into more fixed figures with human-like personas and unique personalities. I already went into this, but like how the Vatican and the Renaissance artists, like basically, whether it was intentional or not, they totally destroyed our concept of like divine beings and like almost made it like, to the modern mind, it's like, that's not believable. They've essentially like waved a wand and just ruined our understanding of divine messengers. But in other cultures, they have pretty cool interpretations. So angels also appear in Eastern religions, such as Hinduism. But the only similarity they bear to their Western counterparts is their identity as spiritual facilitators and how they interact with people. It's obvious that in Eastern cultures, they don't have the word angel. That's like a Hebrew Aramaic word.
Sure.
The original word.
Sure.
Malachim, whatever. So they have their own words for them, like Devas. Devas are spiritual guardians who watch over people and facilitate their process of becoming one with the universe.
Wow. Same thing.
They are believed to inhabit the higher astral plane. And they are sometimes worshipped in Hinduism as like minor deities.
Wow.
Buddhism, this is my favorite interpretation, and I think it's pretty much very close to the truth of what's going on here.
Yeah.
In Buddhism, angelic beings are referred to as devas. This is where I disagree. They say they are not immortal, but rather they are souls who have reincarnated into a higher spiritual plane. I believe half of that is true, and then half of it needs a little editing.
Sure.
Every soul is immortal,
right?
Technically, in the cosmic scheme of things,
right.
But you can't just kill an angel. That
you can't kill a soul.
It's not like spiritual beings are like going to battle like that. It's awareness. It's like it's complicated, but
it is very complicated.
I agree with this statement that as we live through lives seeking illumination, essentially we reach that point to where we become these beings. And this is why I believe that, because the lady told Dad, she said that when you die, you become as we are. Your soul goes on the journey. It could go wherever it wants to go. You go into these orbs and become as we are.
Wow.
We're like, when you think about it out of the box, it's almost like those beings are us in the future.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly how I see it.
But the future is like non-linear cosmic timing.
Right, because time is completely made up by us.
But it's like it's kind of like us.
Yeah, totally. Like the 2001 thing. But
the psyop, the conspiracy is like grays are us from the future.
Yeah.
But like we were destroyed through like evolution and global warming and whatever, crops can't sustain life on here anymore, and we mutated and created these android forms. I think they're just trying to muddy the truth.
Yeah, I don't get that, man. These days, every time I see something with like grays or like people will share these pictures that are like of like alien bodies, and it's like, dude, that is clay. Like you can literally see
it's
like
Power Rangers putty.
Yeah,
prosthetic.
Exactly. Like, bro, that was made in some prop room. Like it's so insanely obvious, but like, bro, I'm seeing lights do things in the sky that I can't even fathom how it's possible. I can look at a picture of a supposed alien body and think of a million ways that picture became possible. You know what I'm saying? It's like not even a question to me. And so I think some people out there are intentionally using it to muddy the waters.
But Nick, they just shot something down over Lasker.
Lasker?
Do you remember by the time this episode airs, the disclosure, no, it was something different. Like different from the Chinese balloon. There's already more stuff.
Whoa.
They did a Pentagon press briefing yesterday from today's recording date, not from air date. And they literally went on TV and talk about how they shot down some object over Alaska. But it's beginning. Exactly what we talked about in the disclosure episode.
Yeah.
By the time this episode airs, that episode will be out. But we recorded the disclosure episode and then we pushed it a month.
Yeah.
But if you think all the way back, what did we say? They're going to be creating fake celestial events. Mm-hmm. It's beginning.
Controlled disclosure.
Yep. Exactly.
It's like everybody said it would take
Staged.
the form of, yeah, definitely. Everybody said it would take the form of like Project Blue Beam. They're going to put holograms in the sky of UFOs, but I think it's more like what we're seeing. It's like, oh, weather balloons. They shoot that down. Is it a spy balloon? Is it a weather balloon? Oh, object over Alaska, object in Russia. They're what they're doing is I think they're trying to stain it into the psyche of humans that when we look up and we see this, so to speak, this secret war going on in the sky, they want to trick us into believing, like when we look up, it's what they're telling us we're seeing. Because they know, especially with Dad's book coming out.
Yeah.
By the time this episode airs, the book's probably out. But in the end of Dad's book, it literally says, because by now this will be out so I can say it, it literally, the last word of the book says, go outside, look up into the night sky, humble yourself before the heavens and say, I am here, and you just might see something.
Damn.
They know that.
Oh yeah. 100%. And if they can like, nudge us in a direction of believing that is something
Spy balloons or
right,
whatever.
Right.
They want us to think that we are a speck on a speck on a speck. That we're nothing.
Yeah.
When the reality is that what the life force inside of you is immortal.
We are
as you're
everything.
saying, and you have the ability, essentially, to become
one of
these
those
angelic beings in the sky.
Yeah.
You are not a speck on a speck on a speck. You are an immortal light being.
Yeah.
That has
That's it.
power. Power.
And if they can prevent us from knowing that, they want to. And man, look, I usually don't like to have my tinfoil hat on too tight, but I will say, the more this becomes a part of conversation, the scarier it is. Like the whole idea of putting your consciousness into a machine.
Oh, yeah.
That's like a spiritual trap.
Yeah.
Like there's all these parables throughout different mythologies about creatures that devour souls. That sounds like
Yeah, definitely.
You think signing onto a record label selling out?
shout out Leo.
Yeah. Hopefully that gets to air.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's blow through these and then we'll wrap up. So they can only be seen. The Devas are invisible to the spiritual human eye. The human eye. They exist on the higher astral realm. They can only be seen by the spiritually awakened. What does that sound like? The orbs.
Absolutely.
Like they only appear to people at the right time when
Yep.
they're going through some sort of trauma or some sort of significant circumstance.
Yeah.
Not everybody can just walk out and see them. You have to be ready. You have to be, I guess, according to Buddhism, you have to be awakened.
Yeah, like Amy was describing, it's like you have to be vibrating at a certain frequency to be able to see that, and it's the frequency of openness, willingness, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's like all this ancient spiritual stuff is literally right in line with what the entities told Dad. You have to be spiritually awakened. The ones who might benefit from their communion. Oh, let me reread that. They can only be seen by the spiritually awakened who might benefit from their communion with the Deva by achieving spiritual enlightenment. They can appear in physical form. They can shine with their own illumination, move great distances, perhaps either by flying or riding a chariot, Now, in Japan and China, there were supernatural beings called Tennin who have been compared to angels, nymphs, and fairy folks of the Western world. Their colorful feathered kimonos facilitate their flying powers, or they may have flying wings. They appear frequently in tales where they come to Earth, marry a mortal, and perhaps return to their own reality once they are discovered. There are also spirit-like beings in Shintoism. I had to include this, bruh. There were beings in Shintoism referred to as kami, spirits embodied in the landscape, such as a river or mountain. Kami means God in Japan.
Yeah, right. Like the Kami house.
Yeah. God.
That's so sick.
Think about it. Kami's like the god of the earth. No, that's Kame house.
Kame. Because
Kame.
Kame means turtle, right?
But remember, Kami, like Piccolo's other half, he's like the god of earth.
And like Kami is also like a title.
Like God.
Exactly. It's like if one of them goes away, there has to be another one. Yeah, it's like the supreme angelic being.
I included that one for fun.
I love that.
The Japanese and Chinese one. I think we have only a couple more and then we'll wrap up. A fairy. This is popular in UFO folklore because I think maybe Jacques Vallée is the one who like kind of imprinted this in the consciousness of the conversation, but I think it's brilliant. Fairy, also known as Fae. There's so many different spellings of this, like F-A-Y. By the way, bro, both of my grandmother's names are Faye.
It's wild.
I didn't realize that till recently. Like, oh my God. Both of their middle names are Faye, by the way. It's not even their first names.
Very, very synchronistic.
Shirley Faye and Carrie Faye.
Wild.
And you want to know another crazy thing that I just realized like the other day? Now, as of, moving forward, both of my names are authors.
What do you mean?
Dickens and Bledsoe.
Oh, nice.
My middle name is Dickens, and that's my mother's middle name.
Yeah.
It's just weird little synchronicity there. The Fae is a type of mythical being, typically from like Irish folklore.
Yeah.
A legendary creature found in the folklore of multiple European cultures, including Celtic, that's like kind of Irish,
Sure.
Gaelic, Slavic, Germanic, English, and French, a form of spirit often described as a metaphysical, supernatural, or preternatural being.
Mm-hmm.
Jinn, Arabic, also Romanized as Jinn with a D in front of it, Anglicized as genies, invisible creatures in early pre-Islamic Arabian religious systems and later in Islamic mythology and theology. Like humans, they are accountable for their deeds, can be either believers or unbelievers, depending on whether they accept God's guidance. One thing I really like is I think it's Irish folklore. I didn't write this down. I could be totally wrong here. Maybe it's Norse. But there was also an ancient culture who believed there were these supernatural beings that did all what these beings are described as, but they were where elves come from. Like the terminology of elves. It could be Irish, it could be Norse. I'm really blanking on that. But, bro, you know what Tim Taylor told us?
What?
He told us that every single super genius currently and throughout history who had some sort of profound eureka breakthrough, it was provided to them through some sort of entity communication. And he said, think about the word genius. And it's
Whoa.
it's like a genie on your shoulder. It's speaking to you. It's giving you,
Wow.
revelations. They know, in the Pentagon, they know that super genius type people are highly psychic, and many times, my dad and others, we know entities will show up at like Tim, for example. He had $1 billion patent. I don't think this is in American Cosmic. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't read it. Probably never will. But he said that literally an entity appeared in the room, flashed an image in his mind of a patent. He went and developed it. It was $1 billion successful cutting edge patent. And he got questioned by the Pentagon. They're like, how did you come up with this? How can you explain this? This is advanced beyond our understanding. And he had to tell the Pentagon, a hooded entity appeared in my room and flashed it in my mind. And he told us that's not uncommon amongst the super genius.
I totally believe it. It's like one step above a psychic download.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's coming from the source, but it's coming to you from an entity.
It was communicated to us by some of our mutual government friends. I've personally never met Jacques Vallée, but he's responsible. In the 1980s, he created the ARPANET.
Right.
For those who don't know, that's the precursor to the internet.
To the internet, yeah.
It was told to us that was given to him as a gift by some sort of communication. And when you think about it, it's basically injecting an advanced form of consciousness. It's a living mind.
And it's also something that would absolutely influence human consciousness to accelerate, because now think about the internet is integral into the human consciousness at this point. It is everywhere. I
think it's responsible for the awakening.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it very well.
It's like a ethereal superhighway of knowledge and information at light speed that we can communicate freely and openly around the world instantaneously. And the information can hardly be suppressed anymore.
Right.
Last thing I'm going to say, and then we really need to get going. Merkaba mysticism. This is super cool. So in Old Testament times, there was a group of secretive Jewish mystics who had esoteric beliefs about the Merkaba, which Merkaba in itself is an esoteric word because it comes from 3 words. I can't remember the languages. We've already talked about this in a previous episode, but it's Ka is the Egyptian word for spirit. Ba, I don't remember exactly what Egyptian word that is. And then Mer, but it's light spirit body, essentially. Merkaba. It's the merging of these 3 root words to talk about the concept of the light spirit body.
Wow.
And these people, according to this, Merkaba is also, in Hebrew, means chariot. Merkaba mysticism is a school of early Jewish mysticism, 100 BCE to 1000 CE. So this is Jesus times, 100 BC, up to 1000, centered on visions such as those found in the book of Ezekiel or in the Hecalot literature, whatever that is, concerning story of ascents to the heavenly palaces and the throne of God. The main corpus of the Merkaba literature was composed in the period of 200 to 700 CE, although later references to the chariot tradition can also be found in the literature of the Chassidie Ashkenaz in the Middle Ages. The whole point I bring that up is to say, like, in ancient times, there were esoteric groups of mystics worshiping angels as beings that bring illumination and knowledge and travel around on like these mystical chariots. They're angels, bro. They're not aliens. They are angels.
Yeah, and it's just particularly wild that every culture in the world describes them almost identically. Like, there are very few things, even in mysticism, that line up so perfectly. Almost like pretty much every culture that we went over describes them in the same exact way.
Some of them might make them pretty. Like in Japan, they have beautiful kimonos. It's metaphor.
Yeah, exactly.
It's imagination.
They're described as the same. It's a spirit messenger that's here to guide human consciousness towards evolution.